Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa salam wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. We'd like to welcome you all to week 5 of this book that we're covering, Safinatun Naja, or translated as the Ship of Salvation. And this book is basically covering, worship in the Shafi'i school. We're covering the aspect of fiqh. Somebody give me a definition of what fiqh is. A quick one. What is fiqh related to?
Jurisprudence, Islamic, or the person's dealings with creation and how they deal with what they're supposed to do with the law and what he has required us to do.
Good. Alhamdulillah. So
And of course, there's two types, ibadat and mu'alamat. And ibadat is the fiqh of belief, and mu'alamat is the fiqh of transactions.
No, the ibadat is the fiqh of worship.
Yes, it's the fiqh of worship, and the other one is the fiqh of transactions.
Or that means the rules, when we say the fiqh of ibadat, it means the rules related between the person and Allah, what they need to know, worship. And the fiqh of mu'alamat is the fiqh of transactions, what a person needs to know as far as the rules or the rulings with them and creation. Okay, good. So another simpler meaning, fiqh is related to actions of the what?
To be the person, the body.
The body, actions of the body. Aqidah or belief is related to actions of the.
Aqidah is belief, the actions of the mind.
Yes, and ihsan is related to actions of the
heart and soul.
All right. Okay, good. All right, so last week we covered the topic of cleaning oneself after using the bathroom. And what is that called?
Istinja.
Istinja, not istinja. Istinja is Ebonics. Istinja. All right, so it's the act of removing impurities from a person, right? And so we covered the topic about, in the book, this is an older book, so it was talking about how you relieve yourself, how you clean yourself using the stone. So of course, we don't use stones in this day and time, but just so that we can know that stones are part of a purification process. How many stones should be used?
3.
No less than 3, but it should be an odd number, like it could be 5 or something.
What kind of stones should they be?
Clean. They have to be purified.
And it has to be dry.
Okay.
And smooth.
Right, and no other impurities on it when you use it. All right, good. Now, what's the process of istinja? If you're doing a number 2.
In terms of using like water or just using the stone. So if you're using water, you would use the water, and you would use the water or wash or have the water flow over the private areas until you remove the najas. With the stones, you would wipe those areas until the stones are clean. When you look at them, that the stone is clean.
Okay, what's the process? How do we start?
You have to use at least 3 stones too, right?
Yeah, you missed that part. You came late, so there's a fee to pay. We'll square up after the class.
I know. I just moved yesterday. My hot water was not working this morning to take a shower. I was late for Fajr. Don't start. Not today. Not today.
That has nothing to do with the time. We'll square up after the class.
Okay.
All right.
Is it like, are you asking about like the first stone is used to remove like the majority of it. It's supposed to.
What's the procedure? I'm asking the procedure. How do you use? There's a way that we discussed last week.
You
You
begin to
wipe right, wipe
Someone
left,
has
and then wipe center.
someone has their noise in the background. They can mute. Okay, go ahead.
You wipe to the right, wipe to the left, and then wipe to the center.
Um, a little bit, but there's another way you start it.
It's
You wipe from front to back on the right side with the first stone. Then
Uh,
you wipe with the left, the second with the second stone, and then you wipe both sides and the anus with the third stone. And it says each must be the wipe must begin at the point on the skin that is free of impurities.
Okay, so you go from your private part, you wipe your way down, and you start on the right side, all right, until all of the impurities are removed as much as possible, all right. And so, of course, this is in the book because we cover in the book, but in our time, we use tissue and water, and so it'd be the same process, you know. All right, and we said a term that we should have learned that growing up that you anybody remember the term as far as
Wipe until it's white.
wipe it till you see white? I hope all of you heard this growing.
Yes, yes.
If not, then we're going to have to focus on this chapter. All right. No, I'm just joking. Okay, alhamdulillah. So that was just a review, but now, you know, the stones really don't apply, but just knowing that, you know, in the event, you know, you might be camping somewhere, or it may be a thing where toilet paper is not available, then, you know, you have a solution in the sunnah of how to purify yourself. Okay. All right, any questions from last week? Okay, so this week, we're going to start from the chapter of wudhu, inshallah ta'ala. So let me, okay, oh yeah, one more thing. So we said that there were 3 options when you're using the stones.
Is one of them that you can use water and the stone?
Yes, use stones, then water.
Water.
And so it then mean we would use tissue, wipe till we see white, then use water. What's the other one?
Use water and then the stone.
Or yes, using only just water to remove the purification, which would probably more likely apply when you're doing the number 1. And what's the other one?
Just water.
You know, we just said that one.
Oh,
Or you using just tissue.
Soap.
just
So you
tissue.
use soap too.
You can use soap, but soap is not the purifier. Water is.
Okay.
All right, so that's something important because, you know, soap is an additive to clean, but the purification to remove the filth is done by the water and the stones, right? But yes, one can use soap as well. Okay. All right, so let me get this PowerPoint. Sister Khadija was just mentioning she got a new computer, a Chrome book. And I don't know, Chromebooks are they it depends on the manufacturer of the computer, because I got a Chromebook too, but I got a computer, the Acer brand, so it takes me a while to get stuff together.
Oh goodness. And I used it because my other computer, my camera's not working, and so I know you like us to be on camera, so I try to, you know.
I do appreciate those, you know. I mean, I know sometimes it's probably not
And that's no shade. I'm just saying because I started with you with the that first book, and I know that you like to, you know, to see us and engage.
I could take shade being thrown. I'm cool.
No
so-
shade taken, sis. No shade taken.
Okay, so let me get this PowerPoint up. So today we're gonna just cover a few things, but we're gonna use some of these notes in the book. Everybody has the text, right?
Yes, I think so.
So
Yeah.
in this book, Safinatun, Naja, there's a
I need a
section.
copy.
Okay, you can put your email in the chat box. Are you familiar with using Google Meet?
Yes.
Okay, so just put your email in the chat box, and I'll be able to. I'll send you a PDF copy by email, inshallah. Okay, let me get this thing together. All right. Okay. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So we covering wudu, and here the Sheikh mentions the obligatory acts of wudu are 6. Anybody want to read those?
I'll read since I can't read.
Okay. That's not going
Bismillah.
to relieve you of paying the fee, though. Don't try it.
Look, I paid lots of fees. I'm never late. I'm always early. Give me a break. I had a long weekend moving.
Okay.
Bismillah.
Go ahead.
The obligatory acts of wudu, ritual ablution, are 6. Intention, washing the face, washing both hands and arms, including the elbows, wiping any part of the head, washing the feet, including the ankles, tartib, to observe the above mentioned sequences. And you said no footnotes, right? Yeah.
No, you don't need to read the footnotes. You can read those on your own. Inshallah.
Okay.
Okay, so here the author is talking about wudu, and we have a little discussion. So wudu is the most important subject in fiqh. Why? Because the prayer is the most important pillar. I mean, all of the pillars are important, but without the prayer, one doesn't really have any in Islam. And so without the wudu, one doesn't really have any prayer. So you can't perform the prayer. So scholars have said that the wudu is probably the most important subject in fiqh because it leads you to the prayer. All right. And so as you see it in the book, and you already know, many of us, all of us here have been Muslim for quite some time. And even if we're new, we learned this very early, but knowing the details and the intricacies of wudu and all of those kind of things is very important. And so he used here the furud of wudu, which is plural of fard, which is compulsory or obligatory. And here with respect to wudu, that if one part is missed, that the wudu is invalid. If one part is missed, the wudu is invalid. And there is a kind of minority view that if one completes the wudu and they get all the way to the end, and then they remember that they may have forgotten something, that's a case where they could just assume that they completed it, right? And that's something very rare because usually people will remember what they missed before they complete, all right? That's just a side note. Okay, furud is the obligatory thing that everyone has to do in the wudu. And so wudu comes from a word which also means to be brilliant, to be radiant, and also to be bright. All right. And so there's a hadith. So our first order of business today is a little trivia. Does someone have that question hand raised? Go ahead. Yeah, you had a question?
Yes. You said the root word you said is it wow, thou? Is it
No,
wow and
it's
thou?
Waw, Dod, and Hamza.
Wow, Dod, and Hamza. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Okay,
Safar.
so fine. So there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he said that his followers would be called by a special name on the day of judgment because of the athar of wudu, or the traces of wudu. Anybody know what that name is?
Is that the one that never missed I want to say Bilal radiallahu anhu because he always made wudu, and when he made wudu, he never wasted his wudu because he always at least made 2 rakats. But I'm not sure if there was another one.
No, that's related to a particular sunnah of belief, right? I'm talking about everybody on the judgment day who has these traces of wudu on them. You know, the thing that makes us brilliant, that makes us bright, that gives us our glow. What That's including all of us. What will we be called on that day? If anybody knows it, then you could say it. If not, then it's a homework assignment. And the first one that brings it, there's a star. I don't got no money to give out, nothing like that. You get a yay, a pat on the back, a virtual pat on the back. Okay. You had a question, Sister Aziza?
No, I was
Okay.
looking for the emojis.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, no worries. Okay. All right, so there's a specific name that the people who are these traces of wudu will be called in Yom Kiyama. And if you come now after we discussed it, that means you looked it up while we were discussing it, and I'm not accepting it. Y'all think y'all slick those cameras off. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next slide, inshallah.
Did you do your homework? I missed
No,
that too. Did you give us the answer yet?
you missed it.
Oh, okay.
So here he talked about the first thing, the fard of the wudu. And in our previous class, we talked about these the niyyah, 4 things being obligatory and then 2 things being sunnah. But here the niyyah is fard that you have to make it, but the sunnah part is in the manner that you make it. We'll discuss that another time, but just wanted to follow the format of the book. So here he talked about, I used this section, I went to the next section about what the niyyah is. Here's the definition he gave. The niyyah is the intention or the qasd, is to intend something simultaneously with the action, and its places in the heart. So he talked about when you do the niyyah, where is it located, and how it's done, and its places in the heart. So someone can have a niyyah in the heart, but in the Shafi'i school, one has to make the niyyah for that specific act of worship at the time that they're doing it. I mean, it can start at the heart, for instance, say if you're going, I intend to go to the masjid today to offer Salatul Dhuhr, right? But if you made wudu prior, if you come in, that's part of the niyyah. And the Shafi school, one of the views is that you should still maybe wet your face with water. It could be that way you have the intention, right? And that's another discussion because fiqh can get real tricky sometimes. And to make a verbal intention is a sunnah. Some people have said that, they have called it a bid'ah, but it's not really a bid'ah because the Prophet ﷺ, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, where he was asked one time, he asked Aisha, he said, is there any food in the house? And she said, no. And then he said, then I am fasting. And so he verbally declared this, he could have just said, okay, and then said, okay, I'm fasting, right? He declared that he would be fasting. So from there, scholars have concluded that making a verbal intention is a sunnah. And we discussed in my class before that, when you declare something out loud that's in your mind, it kind of gives harmony to the intention, For instance, if you have a goal to do something, like if you go to the gym and, you're going to complete this circuit, if you tell yourself, I'm going to get through this, that kind of helps to motivate, So it's not nothing that we don't understand. All right. Its time is at the beginning of washing the first portion of the face, and tartib is to observe the sequence of the wudu such that no latter limb of wudu should precede a former limb. All right. And so this is actually what the author wrote in the book. And so we'll discuss this just a little bit, inshallah. Any questions before we go on, or?
No.
Okay. So just a little discussion about the niyyah. So the niyyah, or the intention, which is one of the obligatory acts of performing wudu. The Imam Shafi'i said the hadith talking about the niyyah covers 70 chapters of fiqh. Which hadith is that? Which hadith are we familiar with that talks about the niyyah?
Is that hadith one?
The one that says every action is rewarded according to the intention.
Yes. So this is the first hadith in the collection of Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith, probably the most famous collection of hadith. And many scholars write in the beginning of their hadith collections this hadith, innamal a'malu binniyat wa innama likulli imri'in ma nawa. Every action is based on the intention, and the person will get only what their reward will be, only what they intended, right? And so this is a hadith that's very important for us to know. And so Imam Shafi'i said that this hadith that we just covered, he said that it covers 70 chapters of fiqh. And what he means here by 70 chapters, not literally 70 chapters, means it covers a lot of fiqh. What is your intention for doing such a thing? And so 70, when scholars mention these, or even the Arabs, 70 just meant a lot. It's similar to an English language. If you told somebody something, man, I told you 1,000 times the same thing. You didn't literally tell them 1,000 times, but you told them a lot, so they should get it. So it's the same kind of format. All right. So this is the importance of intention, that every act of worship, every legislated act of worship has to have a specific intention connected to it. All right. Then here the niyyah is continue what the author said, that the meaning is to intend something, and that has to be followed by an action. And the place of the niyyah is in the heart, and the time of the niyyah is at the time of the action. So in the Shafi'i school, you make the niyyah simultaneously when you're doing the action, at the time of the action, right? And so that's when you make the niyyah. All right. So how does that work? For instance, say if you plan on going on Hajj. You have to do a lot of preparation for Hajj, right? So
Yes.
So here you will make the intention in the heart, but at the time that you're setting out for Hajj, and at the time that you have prepared everything, then you also make the niyyah there, because that is an act of worship. And so here he mentions there's two types of niyyah. One is that when you remove yourself from an impure state, and so we're talking specifically about wudhu, right? One is when you remove yourself from an impure state, and the other one is for offering salat. So for instance, when you're making wudu, say after you use the bathroom, and most of us, I think after you use the bathroom, it is recommended to make wudu, right? So in that time, making that wudu is the niyyah for purification. You don't have to verbally say, when you make wudu at that time, you don't have to verbally intend, say a wudu, right? And then that wudu can be used for all of the other things that require wudu, or reciting the Quran, making tawaf, all of those kind of things like that, right? But now you had a question, sis?
Yes. So when you're talking about verbally, do I have to necessarily say it out loud?
No,
Like,
you
like,
don't.
because we're not supposed to say the name of Allah or in the bathroom or have anything with the name of Allah when we enter the restroom. So I can, because and then it's, to me, it's, I don't know, because we ghusl obviously in the shower, right? You ghusl in the shower, and most people wudu in the bathroom. So and we're supposed to say the basmalah before we wudu. So and then we have this ruling that we can't pronounce the name of Allah in the bathroom and things like that. So my question is, if we're doing it in our brains, we're saying it in our heads but not out loud, is that still okay in the restroom? Because that's confusing
Yeah.
to me.
Well, the restroom is another factor that comes in. So now you don't say it. So yeah, if you're in a place where because there's a different ruling with that. So if you're in the bathroom, no, you wouldn't say it out loud. You would just say it to yourself. But if you're somewhere where it's not, impurities, like if you're at a wudu station, you can say it out loud. You follow what I'm
Okay.
saying? Yeah. So yeah, that would be an exception. Okay. So for instance, if you're making wudu, for instance, if just to keep yourself in a pure state, and those kind of things, that doesn't require of that. Making the wudu in and of itself is the niyyah, right? But if you're offering for salat, then you have to make the intention for the salat, right? You have to make the intention. Okay. And that In the Shafi'i school, now this is just in the Shafi'i school. I don't know about the other school. That the niyah specifically for the wudu is before you begin to wash your face. That at that time you make the wudu for the salat. That's the time. That's the time you make the intention. At the time you begin to wash your face. Was any questions on that? Do I need to go back?
Can you go
No.
back to the slide? I wasn't finished. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I moved a little fast.
I got it. I just screenshot it. I'll write the last sentence later.
Okay. Okay, so let me go back for a second. Now, in this section, I think most of us are familiar with making wudu. And so there are 6 conditions, the niyah, and then the next one in the book is talking about washing the face, right? Washing the
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's considered the face?
All the way your whole face, like up into what your hairline, like that hairline, like the ear, like that right there to that ear hairline area.
Where the normal hairline begins for average person, which is right here, usually, forehead right there, down to your chin, and then from right here, this ear piece right here, up into the next one, all of that is considered the face. And we covered this last time. What is the name of this piece right here of the ear? It has a term. Anybody know? Huh?
Vegas, I think it is.
What is it called?
Is it the Vegas?
I don't know.
I forgot. I'm thinking of nerves now.
It's a lineal. I can't say it. It's one of them big long medical words. But I know what you're talking about.
We had it last time, but I forgot. But this little what do we call it like in regular terms?
It's the tragus.
The trachis.
Tragus.
Yeah, that's it. What is it?
That's
Tragus.
the trachea. Yeah.
You said Vegas. What are you talking?
She trying to hit the strip.
I told you I was thinking about nerves.
Sis. What are you?
But Layla, the nurse, gave us the right term.
Absolutely. So Layla, you think you could put that in the chat box so we can, I couldn't remember the name of that thing. Okay. So from the forehead to the chin and from the tracheus.
No, that's the windpipe. The
Okay.
tragus.
Tragus.
Tragus. Tragus.
All right. The tragus. From the right side to the left, all of that is considered the face. And so water must touch every part from that part. Now, of course, there are people who, got their George Jefferson hairlines. That wouldn't include a part of the face. So you'll start with, even if a person doesn't have hair or their hairline is here or somewhere, you would start where the normal place is. All right. Then after that, the next obligatory part is washing the hands up into the elbows. Washing the hands up to the elbows. So water has to touch every part from the tip of your fingers up until your elbows and past your elbows. So, not up to the elbows and you stop, but past the elbows, and then making sure water touches every part of that limb, starting with the right and then the left. Okay. So washing the face, the intention, washing the face, washing the arms or hands up to the elbows. Okay. Then wiping the head, right? And so in the Shafi'i school, there that a person has to wipe at least part of the head. And so when they wipe the head, if a person wipes just part of the head, they have to touch part of the hair that's on the scalp, right? And so in the Shafi'i school, if a person just touches water like on a part of their head, that is enough as an obligation, right? And we'll discuss the other parts in the upcoming slides. So if a person just did that much, that would satisfy the obligation and will do. Go ahead. You had a question, sis?
So I have locks. So I take water and I just make sure my hands are like really wet, and I wipe from my hairline all the way to the back of my hairline. I mean, wipe through my locks, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I wash like my hands. So is that okay? Because I be hearing people saying something about we should have locks and stuff like that, blah blah blah, and I haven't read anything that said I can't.
Did they actually say blah blah blah, or you added that in there?
I did the blah 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 part.
Right. So here we're discussing what's obligatory in the wudu, and then we're going to discuss what's sunnah. So when you wipe the hair on the head is part of the obligation. So anything that is come down longer, that's not obligatory for you to wipe the hair, right? And then also I missed the part when you're doing the face. If someone has facial hair, the only part that is obligatory to wipe when you're doing wudu. Now remember, we talk about obligatory. We're not talking about sunnah. It's parts that if they have hair on the face and the skin can be seen, if the skin can be seen on the face, that water has to touch that. So if someone has a thick beard, and they can't see the chin, they just go down to the chin, but they're not obligated to wash this part, right? And they're not obligated to, find the chin. They just go down where they can, and then this is another part, wiping the beard. Alhamdulillah, hopefully it doesn't apply to any sisters, right? I'm just joking. That was a joke. It didn't go over well, but I don't care. It's not my. I'm not a comedian, so.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam.
This is Sister Miriam. Excuse my cat playing in the background, but I did hear an imam say that if a woman did have even a slight beard, she had to make sure water reached all the way through. She can't just like, wipe. She has to make sure she gets all the way through the beard
Well,
and to reach the skin.
Well, it would be highly unlikely for a woman to have. We're talking about if you have a thick beard, but if a woman has strands of hair on her face, yes, she would have to cover them because you can still see the skin. So yeah, they would have to be covered.
No, I'm just talking about if a woman has a beard and she needs to let the water get. I mean, there are some women with beards. I mean, I don't have a beard, but there are some women with beards. And if they do, they need to make sure that they can't just wipe the hair. They have to wash through that hair on their chin, on their sides of their face, wherever that hair is. You
Yeah,
have to get through that.
but this is what we're covering. What's an obligation, and then what's sunnah.
Okay, so that would be what sunnah, I
Yes,
guess.
wiping through the
Okay.
beard, that would be sunnah. Okay, we're going to cover that.
Shukran, yeah.
Okay. All right. And so then the person we mentioned the niyyah, washing the face, washing the hands up into the elbows, wiping at least part of the head, and then washing the feet from the toes, the top of the toes, up into the ankles and past the ankles. All right. So these are the 6 obligatory things that have to do in wudu, and then the other one is he mentioned is tartib. Doing it in order. Go, you had a question?
Isn't there the hadith that talks about making sure you get the heels and the ankles really well from Aisha radiallahu anha, when they were saying something about, I can't remember exactly, but I remember reading it in the Sirah when they were talking about if like somebody was gonna burn. She said something to one of the companions like, "Hey, make sure you get your heels because something about they're gonna burn in the hellfire." Do you
Yes.
remember that hadith?
Yeah, I remember the hadith. I don't know verbatim, but this is expressing the importance of covering all of the limbs, right? But now we're talking about the obligatory parts you have to do, and then what's sunnah. And so sunnah is making sure that you do what's called excess. When you go past the elbows, going past the ankles, all of that is like doing excess, and so that's the sunnah part that you do, right? And so that hadith is about, the importance and the emphasis on making sure every part becomes wet, right? And not necessarily that your wudu would be invalid, right? Not necessarily. Did I answer the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now we talked about all of the fard parts. So in this book, on this section, because most of us are familiar with the making wudu, he doesn't really cover the part in this book, but you'll read them in different books, like what invalidates your wudu. And all of you know those, going into a deep sleep, lying down, sleeping. In the Shafi'i school, if you're still sitting on your backside and you're not off, that doesn't necessarily break your wudu. And of course, using the bathroom, those things break your wudu. All right, so I want to cover in this section. This class won't be too long today. Just the book, the sunnahs that's covered in the book. These are notes that were introduced by the translator, and so it comes from the commentary in the Shafi'i school. All right, and so now we talked about the obligatory way to make wudu. So if a person makes a wudu according to the Quran mentions what's obligatory. Where's that verse found at? Anybody know?
That's Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayat 5.
Okay. Ayat 5?
Ayat 6, sorry, Ayat 6.
Okay. Yeah, so in Surah Ma'idah, which is the 5th surah, on the 6th verse, it says, "Oh, you who believe, when you intend to prepare for prayer, that you wash your face, you wash your hands up to the elbows, you wipe your head," or the Arabic structure of the sentence mean that's what Imam Shafi'i got his position about wiping part of the head and then washing your feet up to the ankles. So that is a Quranic wudu, and if one just did that they wipe their face, the whole face, or at least one time. They wash their hands and elbows once. They wipe at least their head or part of the head once, and they wash their feet right to left once. That would be a compulsory wudu, and that would be sufficient. But now we're talking about the things that are added as the sunnah. All right. So here he has these notes, the sunnah way to perform wudu. So the first thing you would start is recite ta'awud, which is to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? And then you say the basmalah, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So you will say this, if you're going into a bathroom, you would say this before you go into the bathroom. All right. And now the Quranic wudu, you will start with the face, but with the sunnah, you will start with your hands. All right. And so you all know you wash your hands up to the wrist 3 times, making sure you get in between and not up to the wrist, including the wrist. All right. 3 times. Then you can use the miswak, and then you rinse your mouth out and nose 3 times, right? With the right hand inside the mouth. You can do them separately or do together. So you can take water in your mouth, rinse it around, then spit it out 3 times. Then your nose, you take with your right, blow it out with your left 3 times. And then, of course, you sniff with water, not to drown yourself, right? So these are all sunnahs, right? And so it's very important to know what is an obligation, because what's the difference between the obligations and the sunnahs?
The obligations are there's a threat for punishment, and it must be performed. Well, and leaving it out is a threat of punishment, and keeping it or performing it is reward worthy. And with the sunnah, it is leaving it out. There's no threat of punishment, but performing it is a reward.
Okay, well now specifically what we'll do between the fard and the sunnah, what's the difference? Like, okay, if you didn't use the miswak, what will happen?
Nothing will happen, but you receive reward. And then the Shafi'i madhab, it's frowned upon, or it's frowned upon not to use it. For the Shafi'i, it's almost obligatory, but it's not.
So in other words, in those 6 obligatory acts of wudu, if you miss any of them, the wudu is invalid. The wudu is invalid. But if you miss any of these, or if you don't do some of these, or you forget to do them, it doesn't invalidate your wudu. All right. You had a question, Sister Zakaria?
Yes, I'm looking. So we just went over the Quranic wudu, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm looking at the sunnah is different. So the other way says to start with your face, but the sunnah way you start after you make your everything starts with the niyah of it,
Mm-hmm.
but the sunnah way starts with your hands and not your face.
Yeah, that's what we
So
just said.
to start with your so you're not punished for doing either one, right? So you can either do the Quranic way to wudu, which you start with your face first, or you can start with your hands, right?
So the Quranic will do is those limbs in there you cannot miss, right? So for instance, if you're doing the sunnah wudus and you do your hands up to the wrist, say if you did it one time, right? And you didn't do it 3 times, that wouldn't invalidate your wudu. But you have to do the hands up until the elbows. They must be white, right? At least
Okay.
one. So yeah, that's what we were just saying. If you miss any of these sunnahs, then that's not okay. But if you miss those 4 items that we mentioned in the first part, then there your wudu is not complete.
I
So,
guess I would just the order because
yeah,
the order is what is different to me. So
right.
with the
Yes.
hand,
Yeah.
does it matter if we start with so that doesn't matter as long as we hit the limbs that should be hit.
Well, no, the
We
order.
end with the feet,
No,
right?
I mean, now remember we're reading this book in retrospect, so the order is important. So if you're doing a wudu like we used to, you would start with your hands. But at the minimum, say if you was in a position where you didn't have time or something, whatever, then you know what is obligatory for you to do and what isn't. So that's the importance of knowing these things. So say if you had to go to a place, you got to do your face, arms, part of your head, and your feet. They must be done, or the wudu is not valid. But now, if you're doing according to the sunnah, all of these parts are covered, plus this order that we do it. So, you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So using the miswak. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, Sister Ma'am, you had a question?
Yes, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. So, in regards to like back to the hair of the face for the woman, it it's a distinction between, like you said, you're talking about thick hair and thin hair. Between thick and thin, it's defined as if you can see the skin underneath when you're looking at it. If a woman has hair on her face that she cannot see, like the skin when someone's directly looking at it, that would be defined as thick hair.
Yes.
So, yeah, just wanted to add it.
Okay. Okay, good. Tired. Okay, let's go to the next one, inshallah. So here, the next order of sunnahs that's connected with the wudu is washing the entire face. We discussed this already, from the point where the hairline usually begins to the chin and lip, from ear to ear and width. So the sunnah is to do it 3 times, and it's obligatory to wash all facial hair. Here he means, your eyebrows, all of that, inner, out as well, the skin beneath the hair, and that's talking about hair on the face where you can see like hair follicles, whether the hair is thick or thin, such as eyebrows, mustache, and so forth, except for a thick beard. So, except for a thick beard, meaning that it's not obligatory to make sure, like if someone has a beard, they don't have to wash the whole beard, but they can just run their fingers through it, right? They can just run their fingers through it. But if they don't run their fingers through it, it doesn't invalidate the wudu. All right, is that clear?
Yes.
All right, so we start off, we go into the bathroom, we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If it's not a bathroom, we can just say Bismillah, and then we'll start, with our hands. Then, we'll start with our face, then our nose, our mouth, nose, arms, then we'll continue. Okay, washing both arms completely up to and including the elbows, which the fard part or the compulsory part is from your hands all the way up to your elbows. And then the sunnah part is washing your hands up to your wrist, past your wrist, and then you'll come to the point where you wash your elbows, right? Up or past your elbows. Then when you wipe the head, by passing the wet hands from the front of your head, sliding the paired hands to the back up to the nape of the neck, and then return to the point of commencement 3 times. So the obligatory part is that at a very minimum, you can just wash part of the head or touch part of the head with water. That's sufficient as an obligation. But to do the sunnah is to take handfuls of water, start from the front of the head, and go back to the nape of the neck. Now, anything that's outside of that, like Sister Zakaria mentioned, like if you have long hair, dreads, you are not obligated to wet that extra hair, just what's on your head. So if you do a minimum, you could touch part of your head, right? And some scholars have said that if at least 3 strands of hair worth, right? Or just part of wet, that's sufficient. But if you do the whole head, you go from the beginning or where the normal hairline is, go all the way back to the nape of your neck. That's 1, 2, 3. So if you got long hair extending, you don't have to wash those parts. You don't have to wash those parts. All right. So then we have then wiping inside the ears with the fingertips, with the index fingers, go in. Then outside with the thumbs 3 times. And then washing the feet up to the ankles 3 times. In between the toes, allowing the water to pass between the toes by using the little finger of the left hand, beginning with the little toe to the right foot and ending with the little toe on the left. So these are all sunnah parts. So if you didn't do that with the little finger, your wudu was the obligatory part is make sure that your feet are washed up into the ankles. But to do it according to the Prophet ﷺ is to do it as we mentioned here. So what's the importance of this? What's the importance of all these little intricate details?
Because
any questions on this before I go to the next slide?
it's showing us how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed wudu.
Right.
And he's considered to be the best of mankind.
Right.
And so we want to imitate him as best that we can.
Right.
So he's the guide on how to do everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands. And so this is how we do what he is we're commanded to do.
Yeah, because we ask, you hear about these people that call the Quran and Yun, right? Where they don't believe in hadith and stuff like that. Just these intricate things of the companions. All of this stuff that we're learning is because someone watched the Prophet ﷺ intensely doing these things. We got right down to the point where you use the, not just your little pinky finger, but the one on your left hand. So all of this stuff they watched him do. This is how amazed and in love and infatuated they were with the Prophet ﷺ, because they loved him more than anything else. And so right now, to this very day, we have these details of how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to purify ourselves. So this is something we should appreciate, and this is why you should do the sunnah. Yeah, you can get by with just washing your face, your hands, part of your head, and your feet, but to show love for the Prophet ﷺ is to do all of these extra things and use these details and be what's the word I'm looking for? Be diligent in it. Be diligent in it.
Have followership.
Yes, followership. Yes. And if that's not a word, it's a word today.
It's a word. We looked it up at Imam Abi's class. It's a word.
All right. So now I'm mentioning the. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying those Quran and you people, I don't understand them. I met them the first time I interacted with them was Clubhouse. I ain't been on there since. Something is wrong with those people. I don't understand how you say you Muslim, you follow the Quran, yet the Quran tells you to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't believe in the Hadith, but you believe in the Quran. Who you think preserve the Quran by the kata of Allah. I mean, they just something's wrong with them. They don't make sense.
And they get intensely rude and violent at times.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. May Allah guide them, guide us. I mean,
I mean,
so continue
I
more
mean,
sunnahs as they're doing the wudu. It is sunnah to wash the limbs successively, one right after the other. So you're not wasting too much time in between the 3 times. To begin with the right when washing the arms and legs, but both hands, cheeks, or ears are washed simultaneously. Yeah, so when you're washing the face, both, you don't just wash the face is one time, the ears at the same time. Both hands could be at the same time, or if you do it in succession, right then left. To begin with the top of the face and not to splash water onto it. So another sunnah, I don't think you mentioned it here, is rubbing the limbs. So you don't just put water, you have to rub it on. And also with the other ones, to avoid splashing water onto oneself, making a mess. Except for our kids, when they do it, let them have it, let them have at it. To face the Qibla if you can, not to talk except for a necessity, and not to waste water. Right. And so not to waste water is very important. I think I told you the week before or the week prior to that. It's one of the things that about coming to masjid and somebody turns the water on full blast and they make it will do properly, but the water's just running. So I try to come in and catch them and try to show them. Well, with us, we need instructions for everything. Like a hen ain't gonna do it. So like I will come and turn the valve on and wash my hand and turn the valve off and turn it on and off each time that I use it. And I'm looking at the person next to me like, trying to give them a hint. You see what I'm doing? They didn't get it. They just let the water, and then afterwards they're like, try to preserve water. All right, going to the next slide. And so here he mentioned some other sunnahs that are related to cleanliness. So it is sunnah to trim the fingernails and toenails, especially for Jumu'ah, to clip the mustache to the extent that the pink of the upper lip is visible. And I'm sorry, sisters, but sometimes that do apply to you all. It should not be plucked or shaved. All right, and here it means shave, like shave completely, right? Where it's just you see the whole top lip, or to pluck or to shave the hair of the underarms and the nostrils. All right, so all of this is related to cleanliness. To shave the pubic hairs, to apply kuhl, for men and women, and to apply henna for women, and of course henna is also for men. You can put in the beard. And circumcision is wajib for both men and women. And circumcision for women, somebody had a question?
I have a question.
But
So when you're talking about plucked, you said this applies to the women. So I don't not talk about the mustache part, but what if like like your little chin hairs? A lot of women, including myself, we have like little hairs on our chin. Now, I don't have a lot, so I don't have a beard, but I have a few little strings here and there. So I can't pluck them out. Is that what you said?
no, I'm not saying that. He was talking about the mustache, but for that beard, you can pull those out.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you were to do anything else, then I think it would make them grow back even thicker. Yeah, so out of the chin hairs, the woman can pull them out and pluck them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, circumcision is wajib for both men and women. And here, this whole issue that some of the kuffar try to make against Muslims about female circumcision, And so for the woman, I mean, it's not something that's done in our country mostly, but it's part of the clitoris. In some countries they remove the whole thing, and this is an injustice. It's an injustice. And then the last part is it is haram for both men and women to dye their hair black, except with the intention of jihad. And so, of course, if a man is in jihad, he could dye his hair black because for him to look younger, to confuse the enemy. And so all of these are mentioned as part of the sunnahs. Of course, someone should do them. It's mustahab to do them, but it's not. There's no punishment if one doesn't do them. But as far as cleanliness, you know, if you don't cut your fingernails and toenails, you know, you start looking like some type of monster. You know, and so we think. You had another question?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I don't know if Sister Mary have a question. I see her hand up too, and another sister as well. But my question: the circumcision for women,
Uh-huh.
was that when they sewed it together? I'm sorry to try to keep it. You know what I'm saying? Is that what?
No,
I mean, obviously our parts are completely different. So I'm asking, like, because I know you said it's wajib, so it's obligatory for women's circumcision. What is a woman's
no,
circumcision? I
no.
don't
It's not. It's
understand that.
not wajib. It's sunnah.
In
It says,
Africa, they would remove the clitoris in some African
Yeah.
countries.
No, I'm
so
saying before.
the book says circumcision is wajib for both men and women.
Say it again.
My book, I have the real book. I'm on my real book. It says my book says circumcision is wajib for both men and women under
In
the
this
note.
book.
Yeah, on page
Okay. Yeah.
15. That's what my book says. That's why
Okay.
I'm like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I missed that part. Yes, but it's not. I don't know about sewing parts
so
together.
I was reading something about that, and it said it wasn't permissible. It was something I was reading in one of these books. It was a story, and they used to circumcise women, but it wasn't. They would sew it together or something like that. Sew it together, and it was not okay to do that. A long time. So I'm just trying to figure out what is how is it wajib for us? Like, how do we get cert? I don't understand that. Like, I can't. You know what I'm saying? Me, Sister Layla, we both in this healthcare field. Help me understand this, because I know how to circumcise a man. I done it with my doctor, but I don't understand this whole women thing. It's confusing to me, and it's obligatory, so I don't understand.
Yeah, it's something we have to look into. You know, but I know it involves cutting like a very small piece. You know, not. You know, and so I guess we would have to consult the experts on it. All right.
Okay.
And any foreskin. Like with the males, you have a foreskin covering the penis, and with the females, you have some foreskin covering the clitoris as well.
Yeah, so I think it is just the foreskin, if I'm not mistaken. You know, and the law knows best. So it's something we can look into. If somebody can bring something next week, we'll have a little discussion on it. All right, alhamdulillah. So next week we'll start with the next section about the quantity of water used for wudu, and then we'll continue inshallah. You had another question, Sister Aziza?
Yes. So like with the women with the, like, I guess shaving or plucking of the mustache and or facial hair that we have, are we allowed to get wax, like wax our facial hair or chin hairs, and or does it have to be shaved or plucked?
I'm not sure. Any sisters know? I'm not too familiar
I guess
with
the removal process, does the removal process matter? Like the process in which we remove the little facial hairs?
I'm pretty sure it's a little
Yeah,
different for women, but we have to find out.
some people say yes and some people say no. So I do know some sisters, when we were studying and reading about that they do wax and things like that. But I think it's like it depends on the chemicals and things. All that comes into play, like the type of material that you use and all those kind of things. So you can do it. It's sisters that do it.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
any other questions? Can y'all put Sister Aziza in your WhatsApp group? Or
Yeah, I got her. She my friend on Facebook. I'll send you the thing on Facebook, sister, and I'll put you in there.
okay,
Shukran.
Sister Mariam, you had a question? Okay, so if there are no other questions, we right in the hour time.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought I was unmuted. But in regards to the waxing and the chemicals, I mean, Allah knows best, and maybe there's a better answer. But I would really be careful with the chemicals, because I guess it wouldn't be right to do anything to the body that would hurt it. So, like if you had a condition, diabetes, and you just kept eating sugar, anything that's going to hurt the body is not good. So using chemicals, I would try to probably stay away from that at all costs. And Allah knows best.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, Tayyip. Any other questions? Okay, mashallah. So we're in there. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this from us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for any mistakes and any misgivings. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in beneficial knowledge and righteous actions. Ameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And
Alaikum
Walaikum
assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.